to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, my special guest from the Lancaster City Police Department, Chief Adam Pillar. How are you?
Oh, good, sir. Thanks for having me.
And Service Safety Director Paul Martin.
Good morning.
What's going on?
Good. Doing good.
You guys are busy. I know you just finished up Safety Town.
Right. Safety Town ended this morning. That's a 2-week program. We do it every summer. It's run by our CSU unit in conjunction with the Lancaster City Schools. Give us a lot of support. Lisa Poe, she's pretty much the teacher contact for that. And it's really, you know, she's the one that essentially runs that program. We assist her. And even our Lancaster Police Citizens Academy alumni have a little bit to do with that. But I mean, we partner with a lot of different aspects of the community there. Fire department's there, power companies are there for safety. There's just, I know the Red Cross does some water safety there. And we hope the kids have fun.
Sure.
Because it is about having fun and seeing the people in uniform that are out there to try to help you as a friend and not some mythical being. So.
Right. All three of my daughters went through it back here at Tardy. So.
Well, it's so important, isn't it, Mike, that kids learn to have fun but do it safely. And when you think about all the hazards out there, it's just a really creative way to introduce them to, you know, electrical hazards as well as water safety, as traffic issues, and looking at, you know, different things that could alter one's life, because we all know of people probably in our life that make a bad mistake and they've either are injured such that it affects them the rest of their life. But it was wonderful to see these little kids, you know. It really is a great thing for them to go through that program. It kind of helps them before they go into kindergarten, getting used to school, and to watch them come out and graduate and sing some songs for us. It was really a great event, and I'm glad it does so well in our community.
Say welcome aboard. I know that you've been on a month now. Has it been a month?
That was June 5th, so about 2 weeks, a hair over, I guess.
That's fantastic. Talk about yourself just for a few minutes, just about your background and what led you to this.
Well, I grew up in Lancaster and went to Lancaster High School, and I grew up on the west side. The first where I went to, actually went to kindergarten at Tarhee, but then went to Cedar Heights, and just up through. I lived here my whole life. When I got out of high school, I went and I joined the Marine Corps, and I spent 4 years there, and I traveled around the U.S. East Coast and West Coast. So I'd seen a lot of our country, and met a nice girl out in Maryland, and I was like, you know what, I think Lancaster has a great standard of living, and it has some opportunity there, and she agreed to come back here with me, so I dragged her back here, and
fantastic.
I've been here ever since. So 28 years ago is when I came back. So.
Fantastic.
How soon did you get on the police force right after the Marines?
I started the process before I got out, and I was lucky enough, I was stationed out in Washington, D.C., so I could drive back to take tests and do evaluations and stuff. So I got lucky there. So I actually took what they call terminal leave, which is like your vacation. So I was on my terminal leave. I left Maryland, or I left Washington, D.C. at Friday, and I started up at the Ohio Highway State Patrol Academy on Monday morning.
And you know, Mike, that's really trying to get good hires in our safety forces is always important. It's getting difficult. We're in tough times, but maybe the chief could kind of just mention a little bit about, you know, what is the process of maybe if somebody's out there wanting to become a police officer today, what do we do about that?
Yeah, if you're a young person in high school, my best advice is do something. Don't lay around the house. You know, I went in the military. My dad worked in Anchor Hocking, retired from there. So college really, the funding wasn't there. As a family, we didn't really have the, well, they didn't have the skills to tell me how to get there, and I didn't have myself. So I went in the Marine Corps, learned a little bit about what work was and responsibility was, but I did something, and that would be my biggest advice. Do something. Don't just stay at your parents' house laying around in the basement. College is good, the military is good, you know, but get involved somewhere, get a job, those types of things. But start trying to take those tests a year and a half before you even think that you're going to be old enough. When I talk to kids that are 19 and a half or 20, I'm like, if you're interested in this, start taking tests, because you have to be 21 to get hired on in our police department. You don't have to have a college degree. You do have to have a GED, but it is based on tests, but that hiring process can take up to a year.
Wow.
For us to go through that, because we do a background, we do a pretty significant background. There's psych evaluations and polygraphs and things of that nature to take too. So,
how are we at full staff right now?
We are not currently. Our staffing is 69 authorized. Okay, we currently have 64 two of those young men, Jay Delgado and Andrew Bennett, they just graduated the academy Wednesday. I was up at their graduation, and they're very excited. Jay Delgado is actually from Maryland, and he's a transplant in. And Andrew Bennett's from Lancaster, left like I did for a little bit and came back. So, but he's a local, but they're both going to be really great hires, I think, really good kids. But so generally, the academy, it takes about a year to get into that academy. They run 2 a year right now, the Ohio Highway State Patrol does. And if we go for free, so it doesn't cost any taxpayer money to send someone there, we do pay their salaries while they're in there. But we've never had someone come out of that particular academy and fail to become a full law enforcement officer. So they were in that academy since February 8th, I think. So it's almost 6 months, and it's a living academy where you stay up there all week and you get your weekends off. And then now that they've graduated, they'll report. Well, they were actually here the last couple of days just to finish up some paperwork, but they'll go to their first shift, which will be second shift. They'll be assigned a coach, and so the next 90 days, that coach will teach them the way that we do things. You know, and paperwork, streets for Jay Delgado not being from Lancaster, he's going to have a tough learning curve learning all the streets and stuff.
Talk a little bit, I know you guys work very closely together, but some people don't realize the amount of work that the police department does. I mean, calls and all the little things that you guys, just talk a little bit about the focus of the police department.
Yeah, today we're probably on about call 29,000. And that's calls.
29,000 for this year?
For the year. We've been running, last 2 years, we've been running about 60,000 calls that come into the building. Now, an officer doesn't go to every one of those, but we've logged some type of official government action on that call. So that's not even calls into that building. And so we are busy, and sometimes that stretches our manpower a little bit. When I talk to people out in town, I hear, I don't want to bother you, this issue. I didn't want to bother you. And you're not bothering us. We prioritize calls. We do it based on an industry standard for police departments and 911 dispatch centers nationwide. So they kind of set up what they think is appropriate. And so you may have to wait. It is a balancing act for us, because I could either go to your call, get you done as fast as I can, and then go to the next call. I would prefer that you might wait a little bit for me to get there, but when I get there, I give you the time that you deserve. And I hope that I get a chance to solve your problem and help you out. So, I mean, we could either just bounce, or we can try to, you wait for that service, but then we give you better service when we're there. And it's a balancing act for us. So.
And you know, Mike, that most of the calls we get are not really what I call 911 emergency calls. I've actually sat in that center and just kind of watch, as we see what that personnel is doing in address. But they might just be there for a call to say, hey, I think there's a nuisance over here, or someone might have broke in my car, so that's not emergency, but we do need to do a report on it. It's really helpful information, because sometimes we try to see if there's trends going on, if people are reoccurring and doing the similar things. It helps in us. But then when we have those 911 calls, true emergencies, it goes to a whole different category. And that's when it might be pushed up, of course, to a different priority list.
Do you still do ride-alongs? Do you let the public
Yeah,
ride
we do
along?
ride-alongs for the public, yeah.
I did that one time.
And sometimes you're like, wow, they're busy, and other times, it's always like being a mechanic. I got this knocking sound in my engine, then you'll come in and ride for an hour, and you'll be like, nothing happened.
Yeah, no.
But,
This night did.
Right.
It was good.
The safety service director was talking about 911 calls. I don't have it separated out by how many we got, but we had, in 2016, 2,849 hang-up open line calls. That was just the ones where it's a accidental call to 911, they hang up, and we follow up on it. So, I mean, almost 3,000 of those just based on its own.
Wow.
So it could be a relative maybe taking some checks and writing checks off of grandma. It's not an emergency, but they just found out about it 3 days later. But we need to do a report on that one. But a 911 call is going to take a higher priority on that. So sometimes, depending on our staffing and what comes, and you just don't have any control over that.
Sure.
It just depends on what comes in. So it really is a busy department.
Well, I know in dealing with city council and all those things and equipment and all that, talk a little bit about the interaction that you have to have, both of you, to keep the equipment up to date and body cameras and things like that.
I'm always asking for money.
Yeah, I'm kind of an equipment-minded guy with, previous experience in other departments. So equipment's really kind of in my wheelhouse of just having good equipment. been very committed to keep our cruisers coming in on, you know, 3, 4, actually probably 4 years what we need in other vehicles.
That was it, 4 years is about it for a cruiser? Is it
They
by
really
years or
do.
mileage?
We drive about 25,000 miles a year on one of the cars on the street,
Okay.
and our cars run 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So once they hit about 75,000 miles, they do start to, not only do you lose because you lose the vehicle, so it's in the shop getting worked on,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but they really start to rack up issues and things that take them out of service.
Right.
And once they get to about 100,000 miles, they really do need to be retired. You know, they're just not safe anymore to drive.
It's really the amount of hours the engine's running.
Right.
So it truly, like you in my car, 100,000 might say, hey, we could take it another 100,000, but a cruiser's running most of
Yeah.
the time. And 3 shifts, 7 days a week. And so that's why I'm very committed to, we as a goal try to have 3, I like to have 4. And then we have some other vehicles the detectives might use, supervisor might use, so they might get a little bit more longevity out of that one.
How long does it, or it cost a cruiser?
Right now, we paid, well, to get the vehicle, we paid about, for the Fords that we drive now, the SUVs, they're about $27,000, right, about 27, 28. We end up putting about another $6,000 of equipment into it. And sometimes when the vehicle's retired, that equipment needs replaced
Sure.
too. It just gets beat up. But so, I mean, that's about, we have probably about $33,000, $34,000 in every car. And police departments are starting to move more towards those SUVs, and they do run a little more, they are a little more expensive than like your Dodge
Sure.
Chargers. But the people we're hiring, a lot of these people have never driven a rear-wheel drive car. And I know when you talk to old police officers, they didn't want to give up those rear-wheel drive cars. They wanted V8 engines. They wanted,
Yep.
but the people we're hiring today, their experience isn't in that, and it does make a big difference, especially in bad weather. So, and we've been really happy. The Fords, I would say the Fords have performed a lot better than the Dodges, just on their reliability. In the first year we had them.
And there's a lot of equipment in there, Mike, you know,
Yeah.
they're usually gonna have a laptop,
Right.
a lot of information's gonna come, very, very helpful. You know, the staff at the police station can send them and forward them information as they look up before they go on a scene. There's maps, there's information that is given to them. Because the more information you have when you go into a scene, the better off we are, because there is great risk today. And we're very fortunate here in Lancaster that we've not had any super violent issues that we see what's occurring elsewhere in our country and the world. But we really do need to be prepared and ready to go.
That was one of the questions that I was asked to ask. Perception, both of you, about policemen, police forces? I mean, has it changed? Is it?
Oh, I
mean-
think it's, we have great support here. We really do, and I think generally law enforcement in Fairfield County has great support for the community. And, you know, coming back here was probably one of the best decisions I made, besides marrying my wife when I got out of the Marine Corps, was that I came back home. We work really closely with all the other agencies in the area. I mean, there is a certain aspect of subcultures, maybe even in Lancaster, that are anti-police, but there always were. I mean, there always were. So, like I said, I grew up on the west side. I remember, you know, and you could get in as much trouble on the west side 30 years ago as you could today. You know, a lot of that stuff was out there. It was available. There wasn't heroin then, but I do remember there were plenty of pills and cocaine and marijuana back there on the west side.
That was my next question. Somebody asked the drug problem. How do you get your hands around it? How do you? I mean, that's got to be. I mean, that's all the time.
It is all the time. When I got hired 28 years ago, you had to work hard to find drugs in cars. Now it's fairly simple for officers to do. It's, you know, if you're not finding it, you're not looking.
Okay.
Really, in 2016, we had 126 overdoses. Now, it's just not heroin. That could be accidental overdoses. We couldn't break it down that way. So far this year, we've had 61, so we're on pace to be right about that same number. In 2015, we had 79. So and I don't know what the answer is on that. You know, it seems like society as a group is starting to ramp up services, try and get people back into society, away from that. I do have a letter here. We had an officer. This is an interesting letter from a lady. This young lady. This happened. Well, it happened within the past month, but she wrote this. She actually sent this email to the mayor, and it said, "I'd like it to be known that thanks for Officer Graff. He's one of our young night shift officers. One of the next group of guys coming up. I'm not lying dead in a ditch. Because of this fine officer arresting me and doing his job, I'm alive. Lord knows where I would be if it wasn't for him. I spent 13 days, 9 hours, and 5 minutes in jail. Those 13 days I became clean. I'm currently on a recog bond release. Thankful because now I can be the mother I needed to be months ago but couldn't due to addiction. So this was an interaction at night. This officer stopped the car. She was one of the people in the car. And he took an enforcement action. He arrested her. Probably not necessarily the kindest type of interaction that he would have. But, you know, and I put this out to our guys when we got this because I want them to know that they may not always hear that type of feedback. It's pretty rare that we do hear that type of feedback.
Right.
But, you know, Officer Graff may have made a difference, not only for her but for her kid. And so hopefully, if we keep doing what we can do using the tools we have,
Sure.
we'll get good results like that. It's rare to hear about them, but it's nice that we got it. You know, and I'm rooting for this young lady.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
and I'll root for anybody. You know, I do believe in the redemption of a human being and that you can change, and everybody can do it. So you know, we're rooting for her. I wrote her back and said, look, if you need help getting services, let us know, and we'll try to get you some services. If you have, because sometimes there are relapses, it's a long, hard road out. If you have a relapse, call us. I said, in your darkest hour, our main goal is to keep you safe, and that's what we want to do. So, and I hope she does well. I
That's,
really hope she does.
and that's a theme that I think people are hearing more of. I mean, especially here, and that's probably just one letter that you've gotten. But you two get together. Do you travel to other communities and talk with other police forces? And
I talk with other chiefs and other people when I can, and we actually get with the Major Crimes Unit because we get, and that's pretty much what Hocking, Athens, and Fairfield County. We meet at least quarterly, and we discuss some of these issues. And there's been a change in the thinking internally in the police department when, you know, we went through the warrior phase where we wanted to hire warriors and they were going to go out and be warriors. Now we're trying to rotate into where we want our internal thinking about how we think about ourselves as guardians, where, you know, we are the guardian of this young lady, even though she's committing crimes. And, you know, she may have to be held accountable for that, but that's really not my job. My job is keep her safe, keep society safe, and, you know, solve the problems we can right then to keep everybody safe. And then the court system and hopefully some services can help her and we can get her back on track.
from, again, a couple weeks, month you've been on the job, futuristic ideas, goals?
Well, you know, I'm looking at different things. Like I said, most things, technology is an amazing thing. And the technology has changed so much. When I got hired on, once you passed Cherry Street or once you got out to about Brandon Drive, if you were not in the car, you couldn't call the station on your radio. Your portable just didn't work. So we used to say I had to fight my way back to the radio to get help. So I mean, but now, I mean, especially with cell phones, if I needed to call in and talk to somebody, ask a question, and the young officers have such a huge advantage over us. If I needed to call in, I'd say, hey, I need to make a 10-5. And then the dispatcher would say, name it. And I'd go, Fahrenheit. And I'd pull up to the payphone there on the corner of Fahrenheit, and it would be ringing, and I would pick it up. Or I've actually been at scenes, I can remember going up to a door at 3 in the morning, knocking on the door and saying, I really hate to bug you, can I use your phone? And people would be like, okay, and they'd let you in to use their phone because we had no way to contact. There were no cell phones.
Sure.
You know, so they do have a huge advantage there, and that cell phone technology has really changed a lot in how we get things, get our information passed around. Body cameras are new. Our body cam program is 3 years old. It was a program that I spearheaded, and you know, it's come to the forefront now. It wasn't necessarily then because of police accountability. We didn't have a problem then, but I saw that front wave of that technology coming to where I felt society was going to want it. So we dove in. I mean, there are some limits to that technology. We only get about an hour and a half, 2 hours of video a day on that. It is expensive. We pay about $13,000 a year in licensing fees and storage fees for that data. It is a tremendous amount of data, just hours and hours of data. Nobody could watch it all. You figure if I have 3 officers on a scene for an hour, I've actually got 3 hours of video, not 1 hour of video. So there's no way one human being could even watch it all.
Wow.
So we pay a storage fee on, and it runs like our 911 call. So every 90 days, that dumps off. Unless an officer needs it for court, then he'll pull it down, and then we'll save it locally for the time for that court case. But like I said, the technologies, they aren't cheap. I can see in the next decade to 2 decades, they can marry facial recognition recognition technology with that camera real time. And, you know, and that's a decision for society to make, those privacy issues. Because then I will know when I walk up to you, oh, he doesn't have a license, or he has a warrant, or he's, you know, I'll know those things. That would turn the whole world back into a very small neighborhood or village. And there are pluses and minuses to that. But that's a societal issue to decide those things, but we're very close to that type of technology now.
I would say, Mike, I think the body cams have helped in a lot of ways. Not only bringing accountability to our own officers, but it brings accountability to the people you're working with.
Right.
And everybody wants to talk about their recording. Well, when they know we're recording, it really does help. A lot of times will de-escalate a scene, and it gives us a complete story. Because it's very easy for a person who's taken a video of a scene, and they're just going to take that one controversial segment, post it on there, and they don't have the before and they don't have the after. But so it's really helped us in a lot of aspects, and we want to be a very professional organization and give our citizens the protection they need in a very professional way. And I think I'm proud that our police force has embraced that. There are other agencies that are starting to embrace it and come across. I think eventually it'll be everywhere. But I'm grateful that we have it here. But it is a cost. Sure. And that's an equipment cost that I think is worth it. Not only vehicles, but as you heard, our radios. We do have more towers out there. We have a little bit better from the years ago that he has. You could probably go to Cherry Street and talk on a radio now, and a little bit further. Sure. But with the cell phone, that gives an added way of communication, because communications is vital. Right. And so you have that radio, you have that cell phone, you have that laptop in there that's also communicating, giving you good information, and we find it all very valuable. More tools. Yep. More things to know. So you can imagine what police have to know today is a whole lot more than years ago. And it's not just about how to pull that gun out of the holster and shoot at a target down range practicing. There's a lot of technology involved right now, and some of these young people are up for the task and learn. And then they also have to drive safe. Right. You know, when you think about the things that are information's coming at them, learning to talk, you know, they have safety things that they have to be concerned about as well, because they're about protecting. Sure. And the demands are out there. But you know, it's really good that training's out there. So it's at the academy. It's like 4 or 5 months they might be trained there, and then there might be another 2-3 months with our own guys, learning our ways. So before that person can be in a cruiser by themselves, it could be up to 7 months, 8 months to have that impact. And but it's worth it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We just, time has flown by. We just have a few minutes left. You guys are very active in the community. Yesterday there was I believe it was yesterday, United Way had a downtown longest day. I can't remember. Susan Nixon's going to kill me.
It was called Day of Action.
That's it.
And it really was the first day of summer. We've been having this. It's kind of a national thing. Yeah. And I love it being right beside City Hall with our park and our fountain area. We had a lot of people there, a lot of different events. It was well attended. From what I understand, they had over 400 children there. I was there for about 20 minutes, and then I had to go on to another meeting. But it was, I sense the community is more involved with the police department than ever before. And then again, I've been around for a lot of years, but I sense that. We actually had an officer there. A deputy was there as well. One of the things that Chief Pilar is really committed to is making sure our officers are having good interactions, not interaction with a crime issue, but good positive interactions, because we want our young people to look up to them and realize they're there for their safety, and to not hate them. Because right now in our country, we're in tough times. There's a lot of hatred around, and we need to see that hatred drop down and realize we're just human beings trying to get along.
Still do tours of City Hall, of the police department?
Yeah, we'll still do tours. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, we'll do those. We'll schedule those. And when you talk about interactions with the community, last month we had the Kids and Cops Day, and that's really not just for kids. I mean, if you want, because I know you'll see like our armored vehicle in the parade, but if you come to that day, you can get a lot closer up to our equipment and get a look at it if you have an interest in that sort of thing. I know there was 1,000 to 1,100 people that came through in May, and I know they even had at least one medevac helicopter. So that event's ballooning up. That's through with OUL and the
Yeah.
Lancaster Police Citizens Academy. And I wanted to say there were a couple different agencies. The
Yes.
Sheriff's Department was there.
State
we had
Highway
Army
Patrol
Corps
was there. And you can actually be up close to them in a great environment. And I think we're really committed to continue that. It's been a good involvement.
Is there a website people can go to find out about those events?
Yeah, we have Facebook. Just
Okay.
look up Lancaster Police Department on Facebook, and we'll put up some videos and stuff on there from time to time. We make a little bit of content up there that we put up there. This fall, they don't have the dates firmed up yet. We are going to do a Lancaster Police Citizens Academy. We only do that every other year. So if you have an interest, look for that. It'll be September. That's 8 weeks. It'll be 4 hours, 1 day a week. So you'll come in like on a Tuesday or Wednesday from like 6 to 10. And then it's training on a whole host of subjects. I know the last couple of times people got to shoot. And
Wow.
occasionally even one of our sub guns. So you could maybe fire a machine gun if you get in that class. And normally we limit to about 20, 25 people. But if you have an interest and you've got the time, please sign up.
We'll get you back on before we have that. I appreciate you guys coming in. I really do. This has been great. And maybe we can work something out. You can come in monthly and do a show, or maybe we'll get you to have your own show.
Yeah.
Well, we know the sheriff has one.
I got a face for radio.
And we got to have a great relationship
Yeah.
with our county sheriff's department.
Yeah.
It's just good. Law enforcement is good in our county.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Paul Martin, Service Safety Director, we appreciate you coming in, and Adam Pilar, the new police chief, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to be here.
And we'll get you back on. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.